What's up everyone? Welcome to another video here on the channel. Today we are going to be doing another lap guide, this time around Spa, Francorchamps, as we have the Spa 24 hours coming up this weekend. I have a good result here from last year in the Ferrari, getting a podium. So it's the car we're going to be looking at right now during the lap, and let's get right into it. Right, so here we are then at the start-finish line. Coming down into turn 1, La Source. We're going to be looking at the 100 marker right here, which we are going to be applying the brakes at. I like lifting off a bit earlier to really get a stable entry. And, you know, if you have a slight touch on the grass, avoiding like too much of an overreaction. So lifting off a bit, making sure there's no overlap. Getting pretty soft on the brake, peaking out around like 60%, I would say maximum here. The P1 dock stops quite well, so not a lot of brake needed. You don't want to abuse the ABS coming in. Turning in quite late and actually not using the curb as much as in the past, I would say. For me, I like to be a bit wider in the middle and really turning a lot, so making sure that if there's anything happening on the exit, it's understeer and no oversteer moments on throttle, because you need a great exit out of here, obviously. So a very wide entry, turning in quite late, hitting the apex in the middle there somewhere, and then getting very aggressively on the throttle and really floating out as early as you can here. Not trying to keep it too tight, even though the line is like a lot shorter. You want to float out pretty early, opening up the steering wheel to really be able to get on throttle as early as you can there. Getting all the way out to the white line, not the curb though, just to save the couple extra hundreds you lose by going over that 3D curb. Keeping it close down the wall here into a Eau Rouge. Easy corner, just hitting it flat. In the Ferrari you can go all the way to the dirt, just making it really easy, opening all of it up. Hitting the apex very late up here and then cutting in to Rodillion, keeping it flat all the way down the straight. Now we're coming in probably the most difficult section, in my opinion, of the track, which is Les Combs. Les Combs, not sure how to pronounce it, but what I try to look for is this big patch of dirt right here. And right when you pass that, you come off the throttle. Once again, making sure there's no overlap, because you want to be all the way up on this curb as well. And it's actually very, very important, especially in GT3s, to be up all the way and using all the track. It makes a huge difference just using half of this curb or all of it, because you're just able to carry so much more speed in and more minimum speed. So yeah, lifting off at the dirt, making sure you use all of that entry, and hopefully no overlap will also help you keep the car stable when you are on the curb, because it's very easy to sometimes maybe have a fraction of a touch on the dirt. You can see I'm very close to it there. Getting up to the peak pressure and then immediately trailing off, taking a lot of speed in here, down in second. And then you want to eat this curb to the right and making sure that you're trailing off all the way in here. You can see that on the brake trace, like it needs to be very, very linear. No like big steps in the braking or anything. It's super important for rotation here, so you really get back to the middle out of here, I guess. Because that's going to make the left-hander, second part of Les Combs, way easier. Cutting in all the way here. I'm not 100% sure actually where the slowdown is here, but you can use, or you can go inside the white line here. So I guess more than this is not needed, but absolutely like all the way in as much as you can here, because you gotta keep it tight coming off here, back to full throttle, and then always trying to get up. Once again, same reason we go over the curb so much in the entry on the beginning after the long straight. Same reason here, all the way up to the grass, just to making sure that entry is as wide as possible. That will let you come in with a bit more speed into the corner and also carry a bit more minimum speed through there. And what I also try to do is never lifting off fully here, because as soon as you come to 0%, understeer and imbalance happens usually. So lifting off rather a bit earlier and then making sure you keep a little bit of throttle to really keep the rear end planted, getting extra rotation. And then right before you get on the curb, you shift up third, where I do. It's the most consistent way I found it fun to do it. But like the initial entry right here, this part, you want to stay in second to really use the extra rotation you get out of the rear end with the extra power. and then up to third, because on this curb the rear end can get a bit unsettled. So you go up to third, keep it flat, all the way out to the gravel here. Now it's very important you don't touch this gravel more than that. This basically wasn't anything, but as soon as you have that tire on the dirt or gravel here, or sand, whatever it is, you lose a tenth or 10th and a half. It's very, very easy to lose time on this gravel. So use all of the track, at least be on the green part, but not the gravel. And then trying to stay as far as you can here with a straight car as possible, because you want to keep the weight straight coming in here. If you go a bit too much to the right and then back to the left, you'll have a bit of weight transfer too late into the corner and usually get a snap of understeer or oversteer, like the car gets very unbalanced on the entry. So I try to just keep it very, very straight down to the line here, and having the car super, super straight, it really helps to point the front end in exactly when you want it here. A lot more stable, peaking out at around 50%. And here it's all about being super, super calm on the brakes. You need to avoid ABS as much as you can on initial braking here, because also that can create a lot of instability on the peak pressure. If you like go a bit too hard, usually use understeer and go wide in, or if you're too light on the brake, you lose the rear immediately. So right under the ABS on the peak, but not hitting it, because as soon as you do that into here, imbalance a lot of it. So, and then holding the brake is super important here. You can see I even got a bit of a snap in the rear end there because I dropped off the brake a bit too quickly. So you want to, you know, come off the brake as you turn in and be a bit more smooth than this, even really linear way to the middle. It's a double apex obviously, so I don't personally use any references here, but you look at this first green patch from the cockpit, and when you arrive at that one, you want to sort of try and open up, keep it a bit tighter than this because I lost the rear end a little bit. And then when you come to the third green patch, you start closing in, and you pass that to really get back, make that double apex happen. Not going further than like the middle out of here is also important. You do not want to be out here because once again, it's very good to come back, have the car straight on the curb, even touch the drain a little bit as soon as you don't tap that gravel, because then you're cooked, you might spin into the wall. So try and avoid that. Into this corner I short shift the third right before, because it's just a more stable entry, to be honest. Second probably feels better, but I always go quicker when I keep third. So I shift up the third before the corner, lower RPMs, and it turns in really well, really balanced, getting as close as you can to the red saucers here, but not touching it, using a bit of that curve, heavy on the throttle, and once again all of the exit needs to be used. It's the same thing as you come out of less comp, like you cannot touch this gravel even a little bit because you lose time immediately, so we have to avoid that at all costs. And it's very easy to go into the gravel there if you push too hard into here. Now my tip for this corner is, because it's a bit downhill as well, it's very easy to be too aggressive on the inputs. I always find it way easier to just be a little bit earlier on the brakes, but maybe a bit less input. It really keeps the car stable. You have more of a choice of what's happening into the corner. If you push too hard in, 50% of the times you get understeer from too heavy braking and you lose so much time on the exit. So yeah, that's my tip. Best tip for no name right there as we head into Bruxelles. I mean Pohoun. I'm lost right now. But you want to open up all the way again here, and I try to do it as early as possible. As soon as the curb starts, get up just to have the car as straight as you can. Another corner where you want to be minimal inputs. If you're too quickly up to the peak and a too high peak here, it's very, very easy to just drop the rear because you drop off the brake too quickly, or you get understeer because you're on the brakes too hard. You really, really need to carry speed into here and then use very minimal input on the braking. Hug the curb because there's so much grip on this white line, and then smack the throttle 100% from the apex. It's a very difficult corner to get together, but that's how you do it in the perfect way. Coming back here into Pif Paf, I think it is, if I'm not wrong. Trying to use a bit of the curve here as well, not as much as on the other entries, because I found it to be more unstable and I wasn't really consistent with it. The rear would keep getting loose when I turn into the corner. But here the car is very, very likely to oversteer, especially the Ferrari, but all the other cars as well. Now the way to counter that is really just to turn very, very, very little, as you can see on my steering wheel here, in the initial braking zone at the peak pressure and at like the initial turn in, you need to be super light on the steering wheel and just rotate with the brake. It will rotate, as you can see, and I'm barely turning. And then when you're done braking, at the last part of the trail braking, that's when you really start turning a bit more, around 30 degrees, I would say, getting on the throttle. Now, this is probably better to look from the cockpit because you need to be a bit tighter in here than you actually think. Hugging the apex quite early because there's a lot more grip inside there, and the same thing goes here. You want to turn in a bit earlier than you think. Logically, you would actually want to be a bit more out and try and take a later apex here, but for some reason there's just more grip inside of here. Maybe it's the rubber. I keep second. You can go third, but personally, for me, second is more consistent. Tight in, little bit of braking, and then super aggressive on the throttle. Very early and tight apex, not touching the curb though. And then floating out to the green patch once again. Do not want to touch that gravel. Quickly coming back over to the left. This curb, even a bit of grass on the entry there. Just making sure we have a super wide entry. Down into second again. Another corner where you might like third more, but for me it's more consistent and fast to just roll in a bit quicker and then slow it down more in the mid corner and get more rotation in second. So around 50% peak in this corner as well, and very quickly trailing off, getting on the throttle super early, and a bit of a later apex in the previous corners because you need to get a great exit out of here, carrying the speed down the straight. All the way out to the gravel again, turning in quite late here. I'm sure you have noticed if you've driven this track before. Big bump here, so you want to be very light in the steering wheel. It's easy flat if you just take it easy in the steering wheel and listen to the car and the front end. And then after that bump, getting super close to the curb. And I always try to keep the car within this yellow and red curb. If you go out to the green, you might lose 1 or 2 hundredths, and you're also at more risk of this gravel. And if you like end up on the middle here, it's a big no-no because that's gonna lose you like half a tenth and a lot of hundreds here. So for me, it's easier to just keep it tight. It's flat, easy anyway. Just cutting some meters, coming into Blanchimont. Pretty easy corner. Just keeping it flat out through this entire straight here. Opening up a bit. You can be all the way out here just to make it your life easier. The track limit is this white line, so you can, you know, open up as much as you want. Close to the apex, flat out, easy. Not even needed to extend the exit, anything. And then here, lifting off right before this white line, because this is another corner where I find it to be a lot more easy to just making sure you do not overlap at all. You want to have the car very stabilized when you get on the brakes, and we know that iRacing tires are very overreactive, so lifting off and even rolling a bit, very calmly getting on the brake, holding the peak pressure all the way in, and once we're about to turn in, we start trailing off, just like any other corner, mirroring it with the steering input, rounding the first red sausage here, not touching it. It's not the end of the year if you touch it, like you will lose a bit, but in the past it was more. Now it's fine if you like lightly tap it, but still trying to round it is better. Light braking, setting up this corner in the rubber is a great reference here. Not floating out more to this gray part. Want to float out to the middle. Light braking, touching this curb slightly. Throttle, this is probably the only corner together with turn 1 where you need some throttle control. And then floating out all the way here. And this is also something I just do personally, you don't need to. But I try to stay on this drain all the way, because the 3D curve can lose you like 100. Like I said, that's not like huge. If you like coming back over that 3D curve, it's up to you. But I like to be a bit of a perfectionist about it. You know, if the 3D curve is ending anyway, I try to stay on the drain and gain that extra 100 by not being on the 3D curve. So yeah, flat out to the line. And it's a 15.3. End of the stint on full fuel here, so tires weren't great, but that is a lap of Spa, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed the track guide, and if you're racing this weekend, good luck, and I will see you in the next one. Here is the full onboard of the lap.